Hello, welcome to the Freedom from Anger podcast. This is the intro before the intro. Just wanted to drop in and say hello. Hope everybody's doing well. The temperatures are starting to rise, and I'm enjoying that. Love to get out and mess in the yard and try my hand at growing some stuff. It's been a while. I definitely don't have a green thumb, but working on it. This is a great episode. I meant to get it out a couple weeks ago and just been a little bit busy with a thing called life, but that's all right. Just wanted to say hello and thank you so much for the support. The podcast continues to grow despite me slacking on my end, but I continually get great guests such as Mr. Fisher here. And if you know somebody that needs some behavioral health education, whether it be anger management, alcohol and drug education, I've worked with people with road rage issues. Just send them my way. We do free assessments. Just swing by our website, www.freedomanger.com, and check out what we got to offer. And hope you enjoy this episode. And I will talk to you again once it is over. Thank you. Hello, welcome to the Freedom from Anger podcast. I'm joined today with Eric Fisher. He is a counselor coming from Canada, Calgary, originally from Tennessee, my home state. I'm very pleased to have him on today. We're going to talk about varying topics. So I'm very excited to get going here. And how you doing today, Eric?
Been well, James. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
And I know we talked about some being a counselor as well. I mean, we can go in any direction, but I'm definitely interested in your martial arts background. I've had a guest on before who was in that field, and my audience definitely a lot of clicks, a lot of likes. So apparently, there's some interest in the martial arts, and I'm just wondering, you being a counselor and doing martial arts, where's that? There's definitely a connection.
Yeah, for sure. There's lots of research with martial arts, and yes, there's lots of research when it comes to the work that I do. There's definitely an element of discipline when it comes to martial arts, and I have to be very, I have to be very disciplined with the work that I do as well, as far as being able to show up for the folks that I work with, be present, be able to be proactive when I'm talking with them. Discipline is even as far as the research as well. So, yeah, so there's that aspect of it that coincides with both of them. And there's lots of other, I'm sure, concepts, but those are the ones that come up really quickly.
So, what do you have a specific style that you
Yep.
train?
Yep. So I still have the videos for the actual moves, which is really cool. And the videos come from a gentleman in Kentucky, and they put together a video series so I can go back to those if I want to be reminded or look at them again. So American Kempo would be the one that I would adhere to. I've been training what's called Wado when I was younger, like a preteen. Came to be a black belt in that. I did some jujitsu along with American Kempo, but I would say Kempo with as far as Ed Parker, the grandmaster, and his vision and his idea of what martial arts needs to be and the techniques from him would be what I would subscribe to.
Okay. So, for us that don't know the difference between, most of us are familiar with jujitsu. That's most of like your MMA fighters and stuff, very popular. Yeah, take it to the ground. And so, Kempo, what's kind of the overall? I'm trying to think of the word. Overall style. You know.
Sure. Yeah. American Kempo, I would say in a nutshell, is dealing with pressure points. So I'm hitting pressure points offensively. And even defensively, I might be hitting their pressure points as well if they're attacking me. So let's say it's like a front right hand lapel grab from somebody. There's a sword hand that I can do to a part on there, and that would neutralize, let's say, that arm, and then there would be a few other like attacks in this technique called delayed sword. So Yeah, it's all about pressure points. It can sound a little dirty, it can sound a little brutal, but it's very much
Mhm.
like it's not about being flowery or it's not just kicks, that's more like maybe taekwondo, but it's very much coordination with hands, legs, body, knowing my environment, just like a lot of other martial arts, but the pressure points that we studied was definitely a big part of it on the body.
Kinda reminds me of one of my best friends. He was in the Marines also, but he chose a different path than I took. He went into the special forces aspect of it. He was a recon Marine. And I remember one time we were all hanging out and I had a buddy that was like, "Hey, show me some of the stuff that you learned." And he grabbed him by the arm, like chopped him in the neck and then hit his arm and then he passed out. I was like,
Nice.
"Oh," I was like, "Okay, all right." Well, I said, "Well, apparently they've been teaching you something."
Something's getting through the brain barrier there. I'm about to be so
Yeah. I
man.
was like, "Do not do that to me, please. Thank
Yeah,
you."
do not do it again, do not do it a first time. I'm good just watching.
Yeah, yeah, but, yeah, that was yeah, so a lot of yeah, like I said, pressure points. I've always been interested in the martial arts. I've had limited training with the military and law enforcement and stuff, and it's just the basic stuff. The one that really kinda piques my interest, I don't know what it is about it, is the Krav Maga thing. It's kinda like it's and
Is
there's a lot
this
of pressure
is is
a
this
lot of
Steven
pressure
Seagal or
points.
is that Steven Seagal or is that someone else?
Steve Seagal, he does the
Aikido? Is that what he does?
yeah, he does the
Yeah.
keto. The Krav Maga is it's the Israeli martial arts.
Right.
It's the whole they call it like fighting in a phone booth. It's up close and
Uh,
personal, a lot of pressure points and stuff like that. But yeah, the whole Steven Seagal thing that I mean, I don't know. I'm sure he's great at what he does, and I loved his movies from the early '90s. Then he got fat, and it kinda became a joke, but the whole "I'm just gonna throw people and stuff." I'm sure he could take care of me in a heartbeat, but in movies and stuff, it's just kind of, okay, here, really.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
see, like, YouTube videos of him and people just willingly falling and stuff, and he's just, like, slapping at them.
yeah, not too convincing. Yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot to it that I don't know. I'm not no
sure.
expert.
I think a big piece with any martial art, especially Kempo, is studying like human anatomy. So I
Mhm,
can understand like an opponent's vital body areas, but I can also find out how can I use my body parts as like organic weapons, towards somebody,
mhm.
and that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, and that's my advice to my listeners. If you're dealing with anger issues, you get angry at somebody, you don't know what they know. I know, especially when the mixed martial arts kicked off in the early 2000s. I mean, a lot of people know a lot of martial arts, and like somebody comes across you, that you're unassuming, but yet you can hurt somebody. You don't know
Oh
who
yeah,
you're messing with. Uh,
totally, totally. I mean, offense only needs to be there for a certain degree, depending on the situation. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we as a martial artist, we have to make sure that we don't go above beyond what we need to do to defend ourselves. And then, of course, that comes into our values, but also I don't need to like go to like level 3 coma and or unconsciousness slash death for someone if it's something
mhm.
I could get out of without killing them, you know. So anyway,
Yeah, I think I shared this story with you when I was in the Marines, and one of my sergeants, he was a black belt instructor. Small guy, just kinda wiry, little small guy, and he's like, "Hey, let's go to the gym and let's work on getting you up a level in your belt." And that lasted 1 day because that little guy threw me all over that gym and beat the heck out of me, and I was like, "I'm good." Like I said, you don't know. So,
yeah.
if you run your mouth at somebody, you don't know what they know or what they're capable of,
Hmm.
especially these days, because they can definitely put a hurting on you.
That's true. I mean, we don't know if they know martial arts or what their day's been like or yeah.
Recently in the news down in Nashville, a security guard, or he was working at a bar, he was a bouncer, or apparently he hit somebody and the person ended up, I'm guessing, he hit his head and ended up dying, unfortunately. And I had a guest on a few months ago, and that's pretty much his story that, like, got him to move across country because he's like, "I was up to no good, I was young, I was stupid, and then I hit a guy and he cracked his head." He said, "Thankfully, he did not die, and I chose to go across country and start a new life." And because a lot of majority of the times, if we're gonna punch somebody, we're not thinking about catching them, you know?
Right.
Yeah. We want 'em to see them hit the ground, but when they crack their head open, then that's not a good road to go down because you don't know what's gonna happen.
True. You have positive environmental factors.
So as a counselor, this podcast is called the Freedom from Anger podcast. So somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I'm having issues in my relationship. I'm angry. I don't like my job." Just the typical everyday life. What avenue do you try to start them down?
Sure. Yeah. I want to be able to talk with that person about, what's going on in the body. Can we just even focus on the cues happening with, behavioral cues? What am I doing? What am I thinking when I'm angry? What am I feeling? What am I like? What's happening? Am I clenching my fist? Am I stomping around? Like what? Just starting there and really just talking with them also about like, how did your mom and dad or your caregivers express anger? Like, what did you see with them? Did they teach you anything or not teach you anything as far as anger is concerned? And of course, we want to go into, where is that anger directed toward? Is it an organization or the world or a person? What are the feelings underneath the anger? Is there any medical issues? Because, like, you've had, is there ulcers, things like that, that might be correlated with the anger? So that's a few of the things is being able to get a full workup on the different consequences that have come because of the anger, how the anger manifests, history with anger with family, and then we could start to get into different treatment approaches like CBT, which we can go into if we need to,
Mhm.
or different relaxation strategies, different, coping skills for anger. Yeah.
Yeah, because it all comes down to the whole iceberg. Lashing out and the anger is what we can see, but what's under the surface of the water? Where is this stemming from? And it could be, like you said, it could be a physical ailment. Hey, my back hurts 24/7, or I'm not getting enough sleep, or it could be nutrition. I'm eating trash food. A lot of people don't really look at that, and I'm definitely not a health nut, but I know right from wrong, and I often choose the bad food, but nutrition does play a huge role in our behavior.
Yeah, sure does, James.
And I like what you said about the focusing on the body. A lot of us, we're not in tune with, "Hey, I'm getting angry." Okay, well, your body is telling you that you're angry, so focus on that. Do you get sweaty? Does your blood pressure go up? Does your hair on the back of your neck stand up or
Yep.
whatever? That should be the first sign, "Hey, I need to disengage. I need to figure out what's going on here. I need to remedy the situation. I need to possibly remove myself from the situation." Dr. Siegel, the whole flip your lid.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'd definitely use that, and I had a client that I hadn't worked with in, probably close to a year, and then he contacted me and, started talking, and he said, "I still remember flipping the lid thing." I was like, "Hey, that's what it's there for. It's the small things that you remember."
Works. Totally, man. Totally. I mean, when I was in martial arts and I was sparring, I'm a pretty laid back guy most of the time. So I had a very difficult time going from, pretty passive before sparring. I would usually go from either passive to quite aggressive when I was sparring. It was hard for me to find that middle point, which, since we're on the topic of treatment, assertiveness training, eh? So I had to learn, how to motivate myself and how to get to that place between passivity and like full on aggression when I was sparring. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely strike me as the person that I wouldn't want to get angry. Like I said, you're pretty even keeled, but I have a feeling if that switch ever flipped, probably not a good thing.
When the anger comes and it's not
Yeah,
pretty. Yeah. Yeah, so that's really I like what you mentioned as far as, yeah, diet and sleep. I think those are huge. And I do like what you mentioned regarding well, just going back to the body cues and what's underneath the anger, like you mentioned, that iceberg.
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like for a lot of people, even myself included, embarrassment and guilt are often there.
Yeah,
Um,
shame, yeah.
shame's a huge one. I want to protect myself from feeling the shame, so I'm gonna
Mhm.
use the function of anger. Absolutely.
Because a lot of us, at some point in our life, anger has allowed us to get what we wanted, allowed us to get what we need, and we never forget that, and we often go to that. So, okay, if I can get angry, then this person's going to be quiet. This person's going to do what I want them to do, and it's just a learned behavior. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, all of our behaviors are learned. We learn them from somewhere or somewhere along the way, whether it be from our parents or TV or
Mm,
music, society, you name it. And anger is definitely an acceptable emotion. We allow ourselves to anger's okay, but all these other emotions that we have, there's more emotions than happy, mad, and sad. There's a lot we have all these, like, tons of emotions, but we allow ourselves to be happy, mad, and sad.
mm.
So we have to really try to dive deep into, okay, what are you actually feeling? And then that's tough for the majority of people because we don't wanna dig deep. We don't wanna turn over those turn over those rocks and see what's under them.
Takes us a certain level of vulnerability to turn over those rocks and lift those rocks over and see what's underneath because I may not be ready to explore that feeling or that sensation or memory, whatever that may be.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, and we focus a lot on our values, our beliefs, the things that we were taught, the things that we taught ourselves, and this is okay, this is not okay. It's becoming an outdated reference because I'm getting older and older and older. But most people have seen the movie The Waterboy with Adam Sandler,
Yes.
and when he's in college and the professor, he calls him Colonel Sanders, and he raises his hand and he's like, "Why are alligators ornery?" He said, "Because they got all them teeth and no toothbrush." Because my mama said.
Mhm.
And then he said, "Well, your mama's wrong." And then he gets upset and tackles them. That's what we do with our beliefs. If somebody questions what we've been taught and this is my value, this is my belief, then we get upset.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, there's another possibility. That's where these black and white thinking comes in
mhm,
like this all or nothing, like, I can't take anything off a woman, and whatever they
mhm.
say or do, and it was so extreme for him, and it was connected, of course, to his mom as well, so, yeah, you being able to tell him there's a reafframing, there's a reframing,
Yeah.
reappraising, you know, there's a possibility here. Yeah, power absolutely, there's an alternative viewpoint here. Yeah.
Because then when you look at like Albert Ellis's REBT, which I'm a huge fan of, he talks about consequences. So you get good, you get bad. Okay. If you get bad consequences, then okay, well, how can we shift that? How can we change that? And it always comes back to our values, our beliefs. Okay. Well,
Yes.
if we shift those, then okay, well, is it working for me? If I keep getting negative consequences, then I need to change something. So where does it go back to? It goes back to my values, my beliefs, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. If I saw one of my parents or caregivers or grandparents, whoever it is, using anger to control me, or try to control me, the illusion of it, and then I'm using that with a lot of people in my life, well, maybe I need to look at that. Like, okay, that core belief around I must use anger to control. There's something there. And maybe my values have shifted, but I'm still using this old belief that was taught to me, and they're not lining up, eh? So something's up, something's off. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I can definitely tell Canada's gotten to you because you use a couple times. All right. Hey,
Yes.
I've been to Canada, and I mean, the stereotype is real, very, very nice people. I enjoyed my time in Canada. Would love to go back because that's my temperature. Like, I like cold, I like snow, all that.
You're an honorary Canadian then, James. Yeah, come on back up. Yeah, I have definitely adopted that for sure.
Oh, yeah. Don't think I could talk the wife into it, but she's more of a beach person. I'm not. Give me the mountains, give me snow, and she wants to go to the beach.
Well, maybe Victoria or Vancouver might that could be a compromise, and then you could drive a few
Yeah,
hours west, to Jasper or Banff or, you know, yeah, it's maybe a little bit of both. So
yeah.
that's the pitch.
Talking about anger, talking about clients. Have you ever run across somebody that ethically, hey, this ain't working out. Maybe I need to refer you to somebody else. I've run across that here recently, and it's just like it's not working. Here's some alternatives, and for me, it's a tough thing to kind of not really admit defeat. Just know that hey, it's not. We're not vibing. It's not working. Better luck with somebody else.
No, totally. Yeah, I was working in an outpatient clinic, and this gentleman was in recovery, and we even had sessions before, and it was jiving well. However, he and I got to a point where he got all they needed from me, really, and I think it was me learning earlier on in my work that, once someone's got what they needed and they might need a different perspective, it's not
Mhm.
necessarily a bad thing. It's just they need someone else as far as that therapeutic relationship. And, it he told me, I was like, "Yeah," and there was some feelings there because we had that therapeutic
Yeah.
relationship. However, I'm glad that he got the help that he needed, and we continued to have correspondence after he went to this other practitioner that I knew, and I was glad he got the help. So, yeah, there has been those times, especially when it's, like, a younger person, like 6 or 7, I'm like, I did have someone email me, and they thought that this therapy I did would be used for their maybe 3 or 4 or 5-year-old child. It's like, "Yeah, I use that for adults mainly. I would not know what to do. Beyond my scope. Here's some names,
Mhm.
you know, that can benefit you that work with kids that age," you know? And it's all good, there's sometimes that's what needs to be done for continuity of care and for best practice. Yeah.
You do have to know your scope, counselors, therapists, whatever you want to call us. But I know some that have no qualms with quote unquote beating a dead horse and will gladly, if you're paying cash, then keep on coming. Doesn't matter if we progress. It's just you're a date on my calendar.
And it's a very sad place to be for that
Yeah.
person, but also for the therapist that they don't realize this may not be in their best interest. It could be an ethical concern.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a huge ethics person, and I can't see how some people sleep at night knowing that hey, I'm not doing this individual any good. It's the same old, same old. I should refer them to somebody else. Like you said, get a different perspective. And I don't think you should be with the same counselor or therapist for 10 years.
I
No
think it
way.
gets yeah, I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
can turn very unhealthy and very codependent and very not ethically appropriate. And there was a gentleman, James, that I worked with in Mississippi, and I used to do what's called mobile therapy. I would go to people's houses and do the counseling with them, which had its own confidentiality, ethical concerns because
No.
people might see me walking into their house and they know who I work for. It's a small town. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's the middle of the day. People know where I'm going. And this house that I was going to gradually turned into a shooting gallery, crack house, whatever you want to call it, like a place for people to use mood altering substances. I was in there once and it was not a safe experience for me. And I told him when I was leaving the house that day, I can't come back here.
Mhm.
I can't, you know, like,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I found out a few weeks later that that house caught on fire. I don't know if anybody was hurt. I had to leave for my own safety. Yeah.
I think now they call it a trap house.
Is that what it's called nowadays? Okay,
Yeah,
trap house. Yeah.
yeah, trap house. That's where you get your drugs. Is where you do your drugs. It's unfortunately promoted in music and whatever. It's kind of common lingo now, trap house, and it's aptly named trap house. Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna get you in here, and we're gonna trap you into
Mm,
doing drugs at trap houses and stuff like that. Like I said, the words and the way people use them and it's nonchalant. That's always been something that's kind of gotten to me. Laissez-faire about, like I say, it could be like crack house or trap house or whatever. Or I despise the term baby mama, stuff like that. And I always shut that down real quick. I'm like, okay. I said, I don't care if you despise this person, but guess what? This person carried around your child for 9 months and went through the pain of childbirth. I said, you should at least give her the decency of calling her by her name.
I know. Yeah, that's a huge journey to go through and to really boil someone down to this very demeaning label, this very, like this this encapsulates this person, baby mama, baby daddy, you know.
Yeah.
When I was in Mississippi, I think it was my wife-in-law, and I was like, I had asked the person, "What is a wife-in-law?" And they're like, "Oh, well, that's my, partner or husband's ex-wife." And I was like, "Oh, that's your wife-in-law. Okay. All right. Well, you can just call her maybe by her first name, you know?" You know? So,
Uh,
that was a new one on me.
yeah. How about saying the mother of my child? Throw that out there.
Just
I mean,
play with that a little bit, see what happens.
and it's so ingrained in our society to just throw that baby mama, baby daddy out there that like they don't even think about it and just saying, "Hey, wait a minute, how about this?" And yeah, okay, it really makes them kind of think for a moment about what they're saying. And I'm all about those small changes, those small things, and they can have a huge impact.
They can. They can. I mean, bringing in that respect with those different titles, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't see that a lot of here change as far as the baby mama, baby dad names. It may be just because of either the city or the cultures I work with, because I'm working with all these different type of cultures that I would never have the opportunity to work with if I was still, like, down in Mississippi, Tennessee. So,
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I was amazed when I went years ago. Like you have people from everywhere. Like I mean, everywhere on the planet. Like
Yep.
they're in Canada.
Yeah, Calgary has its own Chinatown, and I could see it the change
Yeah.
when I'm driving through there.
But yeah,
Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Haiti.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's lots of folks doing that up here in Canada, for sure. Across from me is an Eastern European family. Between me is 2 Filipino families, and so it's amazing I get to experience all these different cultural experiences, and, yeah, just being able to even hear about how racism is different in different cultures, like, even with Indians, if someone's darker brown, then their family doesn't want them to marry someone that's darker brown than their, like, shade of
Mhm.
brown. I mean, it just bothered my mind that that was something that they struggled with, you know?
Oh yeah, you definitely hear about that in the Latino community. If they're a darker shade, then they're lesser than,
Mm,
and that's just that mentality that's been perpetuated through generations of just ignorance. And I always tell my clients, I'm ignorant because I don't know everything. Ignorance is just a lack of knowledge. So, yes, we are ignorant of so many things, and we have to really look at what we've been taught and how we're going to move forward. Are we going to be ignorant or are we going to be open to new ideas?
I don't have to be angry with myself or someone else just because I don't know something about some
Yeah.
topic. Yeah, can I have I think is it John Kabat-Zinn that talked about having a beginner's mind where I can see things maybe like a kid does, like something new and fresh, maybe even for the first time it looks like, and just being curious,
Mhm.
like it's okay to not know everything. I totally agree, James. It's a really important lesson for us to learn that it's okay to not know all. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the people I work with on a daily basis, they're I don't wanna say mentally challenged, but they've got some mental issues going on, and you have to really have a thick skin and try to work with them, try to meet them where they are, and it is challenging at times because, my god, you only have so much, patience and resolve, but in the end, you have to look at them like, okay, well, this is what they're going through. Okay. I cannot relate to what they're going through. The best I can do is try to facilitate them being okay. So I might have to make some exceptions and do this, do that. But interesting area that we work in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe it's just working with someone on daily life skills or just ways so they don't not that they wanna intentionally hurt themselves, but they might not have that capacity to know this is not good for me, and so
Yeah, it's the daily life skills that we take for granted. I was talking to a young counselor the other day, and she was flustered. It's just one of those days, and set her aside. I said, "Don't overcomplicate it. Teach these people the basic skills that we take for granted, and they will be grateful. Just the basic, basic skills, because." We think they know these things. They don't. The basic, basic skills. I mean, something as simple as how to react when somebody says something that you don't agree with. Most of us are like, okay, we kind of shrug it off or whatever, but these people don't have that. It's, I'm going to attack. I said, don't try to overcomplicate it.
keep it simple, eh? Keep it simple.
Yep. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. And that's definitely my message to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, have some gentleness, some compassion for, yourself, working with the population that you're working with, and that I can only do as much as I possibly can and keep it in simple that way. Yeah.
What? So you do use a lot of CBT?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll use CBT for for anger, anxiety, depression, also bring it in when it comes to trauma as far as self-sabotage or self-defeating thinking, especially for addiction when it comes to that, you know, committee inside the head that wants someone to pick up over and over again or mood alter over and over again or beat myself up for using the shame, the guilt, all that.
Mhm,
So yeah, I use it for quite a few things. It's kind of like lifting weights, eh? Like the more that I use these tools,
mhm.
the more strong I become using them, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of REBT, which is it came out before CBT. I've had a lot of quote unquote success, or I've had a lot of breakthroughs with motivational interviewing technique because if you're dealing with younger people, how is this going to be benefiting me? It's kind of it's all about me, me, and me. And with the motivational interviewing, it's okay. Well, this is how you're going to benefit from this. I've had a lot of success with the motivational interviewing. Definitely, CBT, REBT, changing our thinking. So, do you have any experience with the motivational interview?
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially when I'm working with somebody with addiction just to see where they're at on those stages of change and being
Mhm,
able to find that discrepancy between, okay, I'm doing this behavior, however, my values with my family, etc., they're not lining up with my goal for this and my values. So, like being able just to give that observation, and it's not about, it's like amplifying that ambivalence, so to speak, trying to bring that ambivalence up for folks, but not telling them, hey, you're ambivalent about this. You need to change. It's more about this is what's going on. This is the
Mhm,
discrepancies.
mhm.
I hear you want to do this, but this is happening. What's your thoughts on that? And then just being able to enhance the idea of making those small shifts. Yeah, so I do enjoy I do enjoy motivational interviewing. I'm not an expert in that modality. However, I will use those concepts and, scaling questions and just different open-ended questions for folks. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a chance to talk with, D. Clemente, who came up with
Yeah.
one of the guys with the stages of change,
It is
and
so well known. It is
yeah.
like the poster child for talking about change in different stages. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you now? Yeah, you're here. But yeah, so if you got a client that comes in and he's or she's, do you do a lot of marital therapy or is it just one on one? Do you do like
Usually one-on-one, I'm not a couples whisperer by any stretch of the
yeah,
imagination. I have
yeah.
done some couples counseling though, and most of the time the anger is stemming from disrespect, infidelity, those type of concerns. Yeah, so I've had some
Mm,
experience, but I'm definitely not a couples expert by any means. But I do know that retaliation
mm,
in a relationship will not do anybody any favors. I want to hurt you the way you hurt me. It's fire for fire, gas for gas. It's it's not going to go too far as healing. Yeah.
yeah. And he hit the nail on the head because I did domestic violence classes for
Uh,
years and years and years. And I was finally introduced Potter Efron. He put out a CBT curriculum for domestic violence, and he did a lot of work with Hazelden, with alcohol and drugs, and then he put out a series on domestic violence, and he basically said the number one cause of domestic violence is retaliation. It just clicked. I get that. All these people that I've met with, so yeah, it's all retaliation because I feel that I've been mistreated and therefore I have to retaliate. And then it gets in the whole little anger thing. You done me wrong. I got to do you wrong. And never ends up well.
it's like 1 minus 1 equals 0, like it's never going to go well. And I can see that even just talking about this now, James, I might be retaliating, projecting onto my partner what I experienced with maybe an abusive parent domestically. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I don't get a chance to maybe retaliate with maybe my dad or mom, but I'm gonna I'm gonna throw it on this person, and that's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah. It's all that excess baggage that we love to lug around and
Card of crap. Yeah.
yeah, we don't need it. And one of the things that really have a hard time with my clients is staying in the present. It sounds kind of cliche or whatever, but if you keep bringing up stuff that's happened in the past, we can't change what's happened. Like the old quote, the past is a statement and the future is a question mark. What's happened in the
Mhm.
past is carved in stone. Unless you have a DeLorean that can go back in time and change things, we're not gonna make any headway here. So what's going on with you now? What do you have control over? What are the choices that you have? You've got to learn to just let it go because if something happened to you 20 years ago and you're upset now, guess what? It didn't happen 20 years ago. It's happening now because you're still having that
I'm
emotional
hav
reaction. Yeah.
I'm having a psychological and physiological response in the here and now. I've heard another counselor tell me that our past is not our history, it's our identity. I'm sorry, our past is not our identity, it's our history. There we go. And so we can reclaim our identity now. We can, like you said, look at the present now with choices, with our needs and values.
Mhm.
And I think that goes into you talking about REBT earlier, with which you use a very present focus, like what can we do
Mhm.
now? You know, so it's
Yeah,
important.
because that's the only thing we have control over. That is the only thing. I cannot control my past. I cannot control my future, but right here, right now,
Yes, and that goes
that's
into that goes
that.
into feelings, mindfulness on what I'm feeling and thinking.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. So I have to be in control of my emotions. I can't blame somebody else. I can't put it on the past. And it's definitely tough for people to comprehend, hey, you're in charge right now. That's the only thing you're in charge of. You can't control other people, can't control the past, can't control the future, but what you're doing right now, that's you.
Yeah, right now, right here, I can do something. I can make a
Mhm.
different decision. I was listening to this relationship summit with Terry Real, Real, and he does a lot of work with relationships. And he talked about these 5 factors. One of those was the retaliation. The other one was feeling like I always have to be right about something
Mhm.
in the relationship. But he also made this statement. I don't know if it's from him or someone else. There is no redeeming value in harshness. And that's between the ears or that's towards somebody else. I can't treat
Mhm.
harshness with harshness, which goes back to that retaliation. It's just, it's not going to go far for
Yeah.
us.
So probably one of the greatest advice I was probably ever given in my life was, "Do you want to be right and you be happy? Pick your battles."
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Being married over 10 years. Yes. Yeah. There's, and that analogy, that story, that metaphor, real life metaphor really is the essence of humility in a relationship.
Yeah, and that's what's hard for us men is that humility. Yeah, yeah, and I've run into that all the time. I'm sure you do too. Like, okay, okay, all right, see where this goes.
We'll see how this game plays out. If you wanna go this route, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And we hope that the man, if we're yeah, we hope the man will see a different approach. Yeah. Like, do you wanna be always right, or do you wanna be in this relationship?
Yeah. And here's another thing that I'm sure that you've run across in your years of marriage, and I've run across in mine is not to fix, but to listen.
Yes.
Oh man, I was told early on in our relationship, she told me real quick, I've got a therapist and you're not them, so I just need you to listen.
Yeah. And
Uh,
yeah, for sure, that's definitely a learning curve, and in that way, we are doing something by listening. It's just really hard to see that that is the case earlier on.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever seen there's a video on, it's on YouTube or whatever, but the nail in the head?
I've seen it.
I came across that years ago and I showed my wife and, and she didn't say much. She's just like, yeah. She's like, yeah.
Like,
It's like,
what else can be said? Yeah, listening is, in fact, king. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I try to tell a lot of my clients is that you don't have to be interested, but you have to listen. Just give them like that 15 minutes to just unload because just because it's not important to me does not mean it's not important to them. Like
That's right.
she felt the need to tell me about what was going on. I should just listen, not interject my opinion.
Mm. Yeah. Timeouts to have time in for myself are important.
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
able to have those words to say, "Just give me some time. Give me some time for me." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting, we learn how we talk about how to deal with anger for us, but how do we deal with anger when we see someone else angry? How do we deal with that? Being able to see those cues when someone says, "Hey, just give me some time." Okay. Alright. Sounds
Well, all right. Well, we definitely covered a lot of ground today. I'm sure you got things to do. It's clearing up in Canada and snow has melted. So I'm sure you want to get out there and do some things, but it's been a pleasure to have you on. I'm thoroughly enjoyed conversation. Went in all kinds of different directions. That's the way I like it to be because you never know what little bit's going to help somebody. So
absolutely, could be that one piece, and thank you very much, James, for having me on the podcast. I very much appreciated.
Hello. Hopefully, you learned a bit more about martial art and about life. Yeah, we covered a lot of ground there. Great episode. Super nice guy, and is definitely interesting to talk to a Tennessee Canadian. So, born and raised in Tennessee, and now he's in Canada. But yeah, like I said at the intro, please check out our services, freedomanger.com. If you have any questions, just email me directly, james@freedomanger.com. We also have a subscription service set up through Spotify. I would like it to be a Q&A. Haven't got any questions yet, so if you got any questions, I'll post them up there, and I think it's like 99 cents a month, and I'll post some videos and whatnot. So if you're interested, shoot me some questions, and we'll get that rolling. But other than that, hope you enjoyed the episode. I got a bunch more to finish up and put out there. And as always, stay safe.